So this is really simple relief printing without a press. And what I've done is I've made a relief print out of cereal packet card. So if you take the shiny side of card, this could also be frozen food packet card. If you draw on this with biro, you're indenting the surface of the card. If you cut away areas of the card, you're clearly not going to ink that area up. So what I'm going to do to begin with is create a registration print for myself. I'm going to lay that onto a sheet of normal photocopy paper. Photocopy paper works really well because it's nice and thin. And I'm going to measure the width of the image, and I'm just going to mark that piece of paper at the moment, just so I know the width of the image. I'm going to take a scrap of paper and measure the gap, the distance between the edge of the print and the edge of the paper. I'll then fold that bit of paper in half, putting those 2 points together. And the crease in the middle will tell me the halfway distance between those 2 points. If I now lay that point on the edge of my paper, I can now move my card print so that the edge lines up with that edge, and I've now got my card in the right position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around that. With a shaped card print, I don't have to be hyper accurate with the drawing, but obviously if I wanted to print more than a single colour, then I would need to pay a bit more attention to that, particularly if I was working with a jigsaw print, in which case I might then need to cut out separate shapes. So I've got my card and my registration print sorted. I'm going to move that to one side for the moment, and I'm just going to put another piece of paper down. That's going to be ready for me to ink up the plate. I don't want to get ink all over my table. So I'm just going to use one of those safe etching inks, the Caligo Safe Wash Relief Printing inks. This is washed out of water. I'll put a small amount of that onto one of these tear-off palettes, and I've just got a simple right brayer. Now if you just roll backwards and forwards with the brayer, the ink doesn't really move, it stays in exactly the same place relatively. So if you lift up on the roller and allow the roller to spin, you can start to roll up. And I would only ever roll up to a kind of square really, that's sort of based on the width of the roller. What I'm now going to do is to start to ink up my card. And what you might find when you do this is that the first time you ink up, you may find that the card absorbs a fair amount of the ink. But obviously if you ink it again, then the card's already absorbed that ink, so it won't ink up as much next time around. So I've drawn on the card with biro. I've also made marks with the card. I've cut some of the card away, but I've also sometimes just torn off the surface of the card. Always worth remembering that these rollers have a little plastic ledge, and that plastic ledge means that you leave the roller ledge up so that you keep the ink from levelling off on the roller itself. So I've used that obviously to ink. I'll move that to one side and I'll put my registration print back into location. And I'm now going to line up my card with the marks that I've made. I'm now going to take a new piece of paper and I'm going to lay that piece of paper on top of the piece of paper that I've got underneath. So just lining up one with the next, simple registration. What I'm going to do now is just lightly touch the print into position. Once I've done that, I've got a wooden spoon. This wooden spoon has been used for a couple of years, so what happens after a while is it burnishes itself. And what's really good about this is that you can control quite carefully the pressure that you exert. So I'm standing up on this and I'm rubbing the paper. And what you'll notice is that the tone of the paper will slightly change. And what's happening is it's telling you that that ink is being absorbed into the paper. So you want to be reasonably methodical, working backwards and forwards, trying to cover the plate as best as you can. you can usually see there's a slight emboss as well that happens, roughly whereabouts you're up to. If you do this too quickly and too sporadically, then you'll end up with a streaky print. The beauty of this as well is, of course, is that if you wanted to, you could modify the pressure that you're exerting on the plate to create different tonal effects. Once you're happy that you've rubbed the back of the paper and back of the press, you can peel off your paper and you can now see the final relief print. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put that to one side to dry. I'm going to swap back my dirty piece of paper, put my card back and then recharge. So this time the inking will be a lot easier because the card has already accepted the ink. So this time hopefully the ink will sit on top. It's always worth remembering that when you're inking, only put a small amount of ink down at any one time. If you put too much ink down on the roller, then what will happen is that you'll fill up some of the delicate relief printing areas that you've created. So this is a great way of using your recycled packaging. So as I said, frozen food packet card, cereal packet card is excellent because you get really large sheets. Pizza boxes, pizza card rather, the sort of thing you get from Iceland is perfect, but corrugated cardboard is a bit too textured, although you could create quite interesting textural effects using different surfaces of card. Get another piece of photocopy paper. Again, the great advantage of photocopy paper is that from the supermarket it's relatively cheap. You might spend £5 for 500 sheets of paper. If you do find that your fingers are getting dirty and you don't obviously want to transfer those dirty fingerprints to your printing paper, then the little offcuts of card that you get, the bits that you're throwing away, or even sometimes the little sort of folding tops can make little fingers that you can hold your paper by. And again, the finished relief printing press. If you compare the first one with the second one, what you'll see is that this is the first one, which is slightly greyer than this one. As I said before, in the first inking the card's absorbing the ink, in the second inking the card's already absorbed that ink, so the ink will sit blacker.